Little sneak peek there. I didn't realize we were
Yeah.
running. What's up, everybody? TB here with Levr Bet. I've got Kaz with Levr and Volume today with Volume Bets. We're going to run through the East and the South region of the NCAA here March Madness bracket. And if we've got some time at the end, might run a little World Baseball Classic as well. Maybe some quick intros. Volume, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. Volume Bets, Kurt. I do the $1 to $1 million challenge on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, all that fun stuff. And yeah, just a lot of gambling pretty much.
How about you, before you jump in here, Kaz, give us your stats here, Volume, because they're pretty amazing. And if people don't follow him, you definitely should.
You want the full stats? Let's see. So we've been doing it a couple years now. We are 3,570 wins, 3,359 losses, 163 pushes, and we've turned $1 into $1,581.21.
That's wild. And then, Kaz, you want to give a quick intro? Though I feel like our viewers are pretty familiar.
Yeah, I'm Kaz. I'm the what everybody refers to as the intern for Levr. Yeah, I'm here to drop some knowledge. Every time I talk to Kurt about this, I'm always like, you should have just put more money down. You won 1,000. What about if we up the ante to like a couple more bucks per bet here? But yeah, very excited.
Nice. Yeah. So selection show last night. We've got the full bracket here. We're only going to go through the East and the South here. Wednesday, we'll go through the other two regions. It's quite a lot of games, so don't need to be on here for too long. But we'll just kind of hop right into it. So this is going to be broken up. I know you guys know your assignments. But yeah, we can start here with the top half of the East region, Kaz. If you want to run through these, I know we've got Duke in the 1 seed on this side of the bracket. I know there's a bit of a storyline there with some injuries. You're probably more familiar with this than I am. So yeah, we can just start there. Obviously, a 1 seed here against a 16 seed in Siena. Probably not a lot to talk about as far as how this game is going to go. But maybe we dive into this Duke team a little.
Yeah, so, I mean, we were just talking when we were getting set up here. Duke does have a couple injuries coming into the tournament. Starting center, Patrick Ngungba, and their starting guard, Caleb Foster. They both sat out the ACC tournament with foot injuries. It seems like Ngungba's further along in his rehab. He might be available this weekend. I mean, if I'm them, I wouldn't push it. And Foster seems like he might be ready for the Final Four. But as far as this weekend, you're not going to see Foster. Ngungba, I doubt they'll play him, but he could be available. Just a little background on Duke this year. They're the number 1 overall seed in the entire tournament. Cameron Boozer has just been a machine, especially with double-doubles. He's the front runner for the National Player of the Year. Little background on him is he was also the 2-time Gatorade National Player of the Year. The 1 year that he didn't win it in high school was by a guy that used to go to Duke, Cooper Flagg won it. But, you know, more on Duke is that they're a top 20 team in 2-point percentage defense. And their most lethal is inside the arc. So they're not the greatest 3-point shooting team, but they're pretty good on the inside. And that's because they have Boozer and Ngungba. Their weakness, I guess, is that they're not a great 3-point shooting team, but I don't think that's going to matter. I think they're just going to dominate the boards, and they're going to dominate the interior just like they've done all season. They did recently come off an ACC tournament win. They beat Virginia, who's a very good team. They're going to face the Siena Saints, who's kind of a local team for me. They're only about an hour and a half away. The Saints won the MAAC, the MAC this year. Their starting their head coach is former Syracuse star Jerry McNamara. Some rumors around maybe he'll go to Syracuse as they just fired their coach. So maybe this is a one-hit wonder for him. Who knows? A little bit more about the team. They got sophomore Gavin Doty. He was their star this year. He's averaging over 21 points and nearly 7 rebounds across those MAC tournament games. I mean, he shot 17 and 19 for free throws in the semifinals and championships. So, I mean, the kid can shoot the ball. Justice Shots is both efficient in the mid-range and in the paint. He's going to be tough to defend. The problems is just, Siena's strength of schedule. They didn't play anybody great this year. Their only team against a Ken Palm top 125 opponent was a 21-point loss to Indiana. I don't even think they made the tournament. Pretty positive they didn't. They were 1-4 against Ken Palm top 200 teams. They don't have a big rotation. I don't think this game's close, but it's a good story to see Siena back in the tournament since 2010. And it'll probably be a one and done blowout win for the Duke Blue Devils.
Yeah, I imagine we all feel the same way. And feel free to jump in at all, Kurt, if you've got any strong leans on any of these teams we're going through here. Next up, we're going to shift gears a little bit. This is a 2.5 point spread here. We have Ohio State versus TCU. This is an 8 and a 9. I guess we could call it an upset if it happens. Right now, Ohio State negative 2.5. What are we looking at here, Kaz?
I'm excited for this game. I think it's going to be one of the closer ones. Ohio State's back in the tournament, first time since 22. They have a senior guard in Bruce Thornton, who's now the school's all-time leading scorer, averaging 22.5 over his last 10 games. John Mobley Jr. gives them some dangerous backcourt duo. The offense ranks inside the top 20 in efficiency and effective field goal percentage, and they rank second nationally in mid-range shooting. And they're also a top 25 free throw shooting team. So they're very good offensively. The Big Ten, they had a good showing there. They took Michigan as far as they could in that game. So I think that helped them get in. Their defense has allowed a concern would be their defense allows opponents to shoot about 52% inside the arc. They don't play a lot of bench. Matter of fact, their bench ranks 325th in the country minutes played. There's only 365 teams, just to give you an idea of how thin the bench is. Just to go to their opponent, TCU Horned Frogs. This is who I'm leaning towards in this game. I've seen TCU play several games this year. Their defense is their engine. They force turnovers, 21st best rate nationally. They block shots. They're top 40 in block shots. Their adjusted defensive efficiency, 30th nationally. Brock Harding, who is a former Iowa Hawkeye, is the floor general. He's got a 3.8 to 1 assist to turnover ratio, so they take care of the ball, but he also steals 1.7 steals per game, so he's almost getting 2 steals a game. They're not a shooting team. They're 227th in effective field goal percentage, and they don't shoot a ton of threes, but they don't shoot the three well. But they hit the offensive glass. They're 57th in the country in offensive rebounding per game, which is very good. David Punch is going to be an NBA radar prospect in this game. He's going to be playing down low for TCU Horned Frogs. So you're going to see 2 big-time players playing this weekend, or I should say probably I think they're on Thursday in this game. Xavier Edmonds, another good player. He's been a double-double machine. He's had 8 double-doubles in his last 9 games. And then Jordan Pierre, he comes in. He gets 10.5 rebounds per game. So all you keep hearing is rebounds, steals. TCU won 8 of their last 9 regular season games. That's what I'm all in favor for. They beat Florida, who was considered one of the best teams in the country. Iowa State, who just took Arizona in that in their conference tournament to the brink, and they beat Texas Tech outright. All of those teams are top 5 teams in the bracket. I think they've done a very good job this year and their defense is going to be the difference in the game. 2.5 is a great spread. I mean, I think it's going to be tight. I can't wait for it, but yeah, I'm leaning towards TCU in this one. I guess it's an upset, but when it's like these 8-9 games, I guess it's an upset, but and it's more of a coin flip in this one.
Yeah, for sure. I was reading today somewhere over the past, I think it was like 10 years on average. I think it was like 10 upsets on average per first round, and I think the lowest being like 7. But at the same time, yeah, you wonder how many of those are just like 8-9 flips. All right, cool. So we will another big spread here. St. John's back-to-back Big East titles here are facing Northern Iowa. That's going to be a 9.5 to 10.5 point spread, just depending on where you're looking. St. John's favored at about -400 here. What do you think about this St. John's team, Kaz?
St. John's is coming in red hot. The fact that they're a 5 seed is unfortunate for Northern Iowa. I'm shocked that St. John's was such a low seed as far as a 5. Seeing that they won the Big East championship, their tournament, just kind of seemed almost like a slap in the face to St. John's and Rick Pitino. Also, an interesting fact, for some reason, this almost never happens. St. John's and UConn were the 2 best teams in the Big East this year, and they're in the same bracket. Kurt's going to touch on UConn later. It's just strange that you have 2 of the best teams in a major conference like this end up in the same bracket. Just a strange coincidence. I think even Coach K was on, I think, Pat McAfee today talking about how that almost never happens. But besides that, Rick Pitino's squad is tough. They had the Big East Player of the Year, Zuby Elafor. He leads the way. He's averaging 16 points per game, 7 rebounds. They have Bryce Hopkins. He's going to add 13.5 points per game and 6 rebounds. This team is battle-tested. They went on a 19 of 20 run in conference play. That one loss was a huge loss. They got embarrassed by UConn. I think they needed that. Since they got embarrassed by UConn, they've been on a tear. And sometimes one of those losses during the season was what turns things around. Another thing, St. John's notoriously, they play very tough defense in your face. They'll pick you up full court. They'll play half court man. They're a tough team. Unfortunately, Northern Iowa, the team against them that got matched up with them, they won the MVC tournament for the first time in a decade. This is the first team in league history to win it with 4 victories in 4 days because they were the 6th seed. They're top 5 nationally in turnover rate and one of the best offensive teams outside of the major conferences in adjusted efficiency. They have Terry Anderson. He's going to bring 16 points per game. And Rob Martin, he's going to bring 15 points per game to lead the attack. The Panthers have forced some turnovers on 22% of opponents' possessions. So, I mean, that backcourt right there between Terry Anderson and Rob Martin, they're going to be another team that causes a lot of turnovers, but so is Rick Pitino's St. John's. I love St. John's to finally move past the first round the first time in probably some people listening in their lives. But who knows? You never know. Last year, St. John's came out and they put out a dud in the first round. Hopefully it doesn't happen again and make me look like a fool like it did last year.
Random stat, 12 speed 5s, 35% of the time historically. That seems crazy high, but does not sound like you think that's going to happen here. All right, so before we switch over to Kurt here, we got one more on your side, Kaz. Kansas 4 seed versus 13th Cal Baptist. Obvious big mismatch here. Kansas favored -900 money line. You're looking at like a 13.5 point spread. Thoughts on this Kansas team?
Oh, man. I mean, if you've paid attention to college basketball, there's one wild card in college basketball. It's Darian Peterson. He's probably, if he wants to play, he's arguably the best player in the country when he wants to play. That's the big if. And I don't know if he wants to play or if he's actually dealing with an injury. I don't really know. I'll just say that this Kansas team could be very dangerous because of him. He's definitely going to be a lottery pick, but he played under 45% of the available minutes during the regular season. That's like the big what if, or what can they be? Kansas did play well with him off the court, but if Peterson locks in, this team could make a serious run and surprise a lot of people, or the soap opera just comes to an end. He shoots about 39% from three. He has an elite shot making ability. If you watch the Big 12 tournament, he had an unbelievable game. And then the very next one, they played Houston, and Kansas only scored 47 points, which was their lowest total points of the entire season. So this is a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde type of team, and it's really surrounded by one player. So it's going to be strange. Now, on the other side, they're playing a Cal Baptist team. This program was a Division II team at one point. The conference that they're playing in, the WAC, won't exist after this season. So this is literally the end. They went from Division II to Division I, getting their first ever NCAA appearance, and then the conference that they're playing is shutting down. They do have some good players. And that's, I'm sorry here. I'm trying to go back to my notes. Dominic Daniels Jr., he's a 5'10" guard from Compton. He's averaging 23 points per game. He had 41 in the WAC semis, which is impressive anytime anybody scores over 41 or over 40. And then he set a program record earlier this season, 47 points. Defensively, Cal Baptist is surprisingly good. They're top 10 in 3-point percentage allowed and top 40 in 2-point percentage allowed. So they have great efficiency. The problem is they don't really play anybody. Cal Baptist did play one quad one team. That was BYU, who plays in the Big 12. They were a good Big 12 team. They lost by 31. BYU was a team that kind of struggled with Kansas this year. I just don't see Cal Baptist having a chance here, unless Daniels just plays out of his mind, and then you get the Dr. Jekyll team from Kansas that doesn't want to show up. I don't expect this one to be close, but maybe Cal Baptist with their superior defense and they get one guy hot, and Kansas doesn't want to play, keeps it closer, or maybe gets the upset of the tournament. Who knows?
It sounds like you're pretty confident there's a solid chance Kansas isn't going to show up at some point, but probably even if they don't, this first round is probably not going to be a huge deal for them.
Yeah, I think even if they don't show up, they can sneak past this first one. But that's when teams get caught. You don't show up and you get caught. I think that's what happened to St. John's last year. I think they thought they were, just because they were red hot coming in, they thought they could take a game off and they got caught. So, yeah.
Nice. All right, Kurt. We're going to slide over here to the bottom half of the East. Kaz, do you want to just throw up the bracket that I just shared? Or my screen, I guess. All right, we'll start with, I feel like we brought up UConn a bunch there, and probably not going to be very exciting. UConn versus Furman. It's a 2 seed on a 15 seed here. I mean, the spread's massive. It's 20.5. But just speaking on this UConn team, Kurt, do you feel like they can make another run this year?
I think they're capable. I don't particularly think they're title winners here. Like, they don't stand out anywhere other than coaching. I do think Hurley's the best coach in the tour. I think he's the best coach in college basketball, period. He's a bit funky and a weird fella and not super likable, but the X's and O's are tough to combat on his end. They almost beat that Florida team last year, which was only on coaching pretty much in that 8-1 game. And I don't think this team has a ton of fantastic. They're just good at everything. I don't think they're fantastic anywhere. So I'm kind of worried that somewhere along the line they just get beat by a more talented team unless they're hitting their shots. Karaban's a good 3-point shooter, but he's shown in big games versus athletic wings that he struggles to kind of get into it. And if he's not really getting into it, then they're not scoring very well. So I think they're really good and they're like a top 10 team in the tournament. I'm not so sure if this is a title winning team or a team that could. It's a struggle for me to see UConn beating a Duke, beating a Houston, beating a Florida, beating an Arizona 2-3 games in a row at the back end of the tournament.
Yeah, that checks out. I was kind of looking a little earlier, so I was maybe looking at some futures, and that was kind of something I kept coming across that everybody was saying. They're not really great at anything. They're just really solid at kind of everything. All right, we've got a closer one here. UCLA versus UCF. We got a 10 seed versus a 7 seed. The Bruins here are favored 5.5 at a negative 245 money line. This looks like it could be a bit more interesting. Thoughts here?
Yeah, this is an interesting one. I think that line's moved a little bit toward UCLA because it seems like Bilodeau, if that's how you say it, is going to play. I'm not so sure what his minutes will be like or if he'll be 100%. He did hurt himself recently, and then missed their most recent game in the tournament, which they lost. But if he's not healthy and if he's not running, his usual minutes out here, UCF have a humongous size advantage just across the board if he were to not play. And these two teams are pretty similar. Their shot profilers are pretty similar. They probably take more mid-ranges than you ought to, just as running an efficient offense. But UCLA are a little bit more efficient. They can rebound. They can do all those things. I like UCLA if he's healthy. But if he's not, UCF have shown they can score on anybody. And if you're going to give them extra chances, extra offensive rebounds, more defensive rebounds, all that kind of stuff, extra possessions just in general, they're probably just going to beat you in the long run. So I like UCLA if Bilodeau is playing. The problem for me is that he did just miss this last game, missed the back end of the game before that. And it's not normally an injury you get over in a couple of days. So I need to see if he's healthy or not.
So one to watch as far as the injury front. All right, so this is kind of really the first interesting game. Well, as far as potential sleeper here, I was looking at earlier, and it looks like the public definitely agrees. We've got 6 seed Louisville versus 11 seed USF South Florida. South Florida comes in with 11-game win streak. I'm hearing a lot of potential, sleeper pick around this team. The line opened at 7.5, I believe, and it's down to 5.5 on some books. So definitely money coming in on the South Florida side, who are currently at about plus 230 dogs. Could this potentially be a sleeper team, Kurt, or are you not buying into this talk?
Yeah, I think they're certainly capable of winning a couple games here, not just one, maybe two, maybe if the bracket falls right, maybe 3, but they're talented and they run. And like teams like Louisville, we'll talk about Michigan State in a minute, teams that don't play as good a defense, teams that are not big in terms of just general size, they're going to struggle with South Florida because South Florida get to the rim and take threes, man. And teams like that, all they have to do is be semi-hot for the day, and you can kind of kiss your day goodbye. It's like some of those old regular upsets you see. This team was just shooting really hot from 3 that day. South Florida are certainly capable of that. And Louisville don't play a ton of good defense. They run up and down the court with you. This is probably going to be the highest scoring game of the tournament. Like this game could get toward the hundreds for sure. They're both going to go up and down. South Florida is one of the fastest teams in the tournament. Louisville are up there as well. So this game is probably just going to come down to if Louisville make their threes. And Louisville have shown all year that they're one of those teams that could go cold. And if they're shooting like under 30% from three, they're probably just going to give up too many points here. Over the year, over their losses, they went to SMU, gave up 95 and a loss. At North Carolina, 77. At Clemson, 80. And Clemson are not a team that score particularly great. Their most recent loss gave up 78 to Miami, 84 to Duke. They went to Stanford early in the year and gave up 80 there, 83 to a Tennessee team that's kind of slow. So they've shown all year that if they're not hitting their shots, they're probably going to be beat here. So if Louisville hit their threes, there's a world here where they just score enough. But if this is like a 35% from three game for Louisville, they're going to be in a real dogfight, and South Florida have a genuine chance there.
Nice. So back to a not so interesting game, but an interesting team here. Michigan State against North Dakota State here. Michigan State coming in at 16.5-point favorites. I mean, quick thoughts on the game. I guess the bigger question here is, can Izzo and Jeremy Fears Jr. here, who's a beast, make a run this March?
This is another team I feel like with UConn, I'd be really surprised to see win it. Again, they're talented enough to go forward. This whole bracket's funny because to me, when the bracket came out, everybody was like, oh, you get a lot of really great coaches and a lot of old classic teams. There are a ton of teams in here I just don't want any part of. And Michigan State are, in terms of winning the title, and Michigan State are kind of one of those. They're talented. Fears is talented. They're just not a regular Tom Izzo team on defense this year. They're a little bit smaller. Their biggest guy at the back end is not a particularly good rim protector. He's not super athletic and can't really run with stretch bigs. And you're not going to play a ton of stretch bigs in college basketball, but just those little things. Jeremy Fears, again, he's a good player, good playmaker, 6'2", and there are smaller guys here, but deeper in the tournament, some of these guards are 6'6", 6'5". They're just bigger fellas. They're going to be able to get to the rim as often as they like. As we said, don't particularly love this defense and love the rim protection here for Michigan State. Some of their losses this year, 83 at home to Michigan, they gave up, went to Wisconsin, gave up 92 in a game they weren't even competitive in, gave up 90 again to Michigan, gave up 88 to UCLA the other day. That knocked them out of that tournament. So there are good teams with size, with mobility, who have shown already that you can go into Michigan State there and just put up points and do what you want on offense. So I like Michigan State a little bit, but in terms of winning the thing, I'm not on board with that.
All right, and let's kind of get into that. Not winning the whole thing, but just out of this east side of the bracket. I know, like, we continue hearing about Duke injuries. Honestly, it doesn't sound like it's as bad as it's being made out to be. UConn's been talked about. Michigan State's been talked about. It doesn't sound like it's particularly too high on either of them. Who do you feel like is coming out of this side of the bracket or this corner of the bracket?
The whole corner. If Njugba is good for the 8-9 game, it's Duke for me. There aren't a ton of teams here who could handle Boozer just in general, just the size. Like, nobody on Michigan State, I don't think, can handle Boozer. If they're hitting their shots from the outside at a relatively decent clip, I think they get through pretty comfortably. I think TCU are a weird matchup for them because there's a lot of size at TCU, and Florida State showed that, like, you get size and you make them shoot threes and they could miss a couple and you can kind of get put in a game. I just don't see a ton of that in this bracket, just as an overall. Don't see it with Michigan State. Don't see it a ton with UConn. So if Njugba's healthy, rolling into that second game, I think Duke kind of rolls out of this bracket.
Okay. And then Kaz, what are you feeling? Kind of the same thing there? Do you have a little more belief in this UConn and Michigan State teams?
It's this is Duke's bracket to lose. I think the only team that maybe can give them a little shake is UConn, just based off from they have experience, they have experienced players, they have coaching experience. That's about it. I just there might be a weird, like Kurt said, like TCU could maybe bring up be a pain, but I think it's theirs to lose. There's two teams in this tournament that I think have been the best two teams all year, and I've said it all year. And Duke's one of those two teams. So,
all right. So we are chalking the East portion of the bracket. It sounds like kind of what people are probably more interested in. I'm interested here as a gambler and like to take longer odds. Upsets in this round. Are you guys feeling anybody in particular? Or not this round, I'm sorry, in this side of the bracket? The East.
I could see Northern Iowa winning that game. I know Kaz wasn't on that side there, but St. John's are not particularly good shooters. Northern Iowa are a top 25 defense by KenPom. This team is top 5 in 3-point percent against, and it's already a St. John's team that doesn't shoot particularly well. There's a world where that game ends like 55-50, and you only need a basket or two to kind of go your way in the end. And then South Florida, I suppose. Some of these other teams, there's a pretty big gap this year between like the 3s and the 14s and stuff. Like Kansas, like Cal Baptist just aren't any good. Like if you got 11.5 early on Fanatics when they gave that out, you have a really good number because Kansas probably blow them away.
I agree. I mean, I think I did say that I thought that St. John's could get caught if they don't have that good game. But I think they're going to learn their lesson from last year. I don't think that's going to happen, but it could. I don't see a lot. I think TCU's like the only I guess hypothetically the only upset I see, and they're the 9 seed. Outside of that, I think it's pretty chalky in that region. But those are always the ones that surprise you. It'll be a classic, Dr. Jekyll game for Kansas and California Baptist. They'll pull out they'll have that one guy that scores 45 points and wins the game. I think who that happened to Kentucky last year, the kid from Oakland, made all the threes.
Yeah, Golke.
That's him. Yeah, the Golke kid. Yeah. So who knows? Maybe that happens. Stuff like that. That's if this is March, baby. This is what happens.
Only needs to happen once.
Yep.
This is March. All right. So on that, we'll switch to the South region here. I'm going to kind of hop back and forth between these games. So I feel like you guys get a little winded talking through a bunch of them. So let's start with the top seed coming out of the South, Florida, probably the weakest 1 seed in this tournament. I'm going to be playing one of the first 4 winners between Prairie View, A&M, and Lehigh. Not really thoughts on this game so much, Kurt, but maybe thoughts on just this Florida team as a one.
Yeah, they're really good, particularly in the front court. Ton of size, a lot of athletes that can really move. A lot of bigger guys that move the ball, take the ball, dribble the ball, play on the perimeter and stuff like that. So they have a lot of size, and it's really difficult just defensively to handle teams that have guys who are 6'8" and maneuver the ball around while there's a 6'10" guy standing in the middle. So really difficult to kind of guard. Florida's biggest problem, which probably knocks them out somewhere, is that they just don't shoot a lot of threes, and they're not particularly great at shooting threes, which when they get behind, it makes it really difficult for them to kind of claw back, which we saw in the Vanderbilt game. They're very talented and they play good defense and stuff, but Vandy had a ton of really difficult shots early. And then Florida just couldn't get back. And that probably gets them somewhere along the line. If you're a good, solid team and you have size, you just need to have probably a good 3-point shooting day and you can knock Florida out. But again, they're really difficult to guard, really difficult to match up size-wise just on a regular 5v5. So they're really talented. They're going to be deep in this tournament, I think. But in terms of winning it, I think they just get caught somewhere.
Yeah, that kind of checks. Forgot to mention Florida coming in as last year's winner. Let's kind of get these couple of real chalk games out of the way. Kaz, this Houston game versus Idaho here, point spread 23.5 in Houston's favor. I think the more interesting thing here that I'm reading is they hold up, which they should as the mega chalk here. They're going to be playing in their own building potentially for the Sweet 16 and Elite 8.
Yeah, that happens sometimes. Houston's going to win this game, no doubt. Just to kind of go over, this Houston team is very experienced. Kelvin Sampson's their coach. They went 14-4 in the Big 12. They were just second behind Arizona. I personally think Arizona is one of the better teams in the country, probably third or fourth on my list to win it. They went to the national championship game last year. They blew it late to Florida. I don't know if anybody remembers that. I do, because I had Houston to win it all, and I was going to win all this money, and they lost it to me last second. So, yeah. So, if anything, I should hate on Houston, but I really do like the team. They've been to 7 straight tournaments. Their perimeter defense is so good. Emmanuel Sharp, Mio Suzan. They're so good defensively. The only problem I'll have, and we'll get to this later on when we do some more of these in the later rounds, is that Houston's style of play is slow. And this is why I think they lost the national championship last year, is that when you play slow and you start to miss shots, other teams get back in the game and you can never really put anybody away. In this case, they're going to play an Idaho team who is on like a Cinderella run. They were a 7 seed, and they won 4 games in 5 nights to win the Big Sky title this year. They haven't posted a winning season since 2017, 2018. They haven't been to March Madness in 36 years. I think the story ends the first night of the tournament, but that's fine. Congrats to Idaho. They made it there. They shoot a lot of threes. They're going to have to make a lot of threes. Unfortunately, they're playing one of the top defenses in the country, if not the top defense in the country. So, if they do win, it's going to be because Houston doesn't shoot the ball well, Idaho makes a ton of threes, and Houston's pace of play keeps Idaho around. Do I think that's going to happen? No, but you never know. Like I said, this is March. Things happen.
Did you say 4 games in 5 nights?
4 games in 5 nights to win their conference tournament. That's how some of these conference tournaments run, where you just have to play it day after day after day.
What did they do you know what they were seeded in that? I mean, they must have been a pretty deep seed.
Yeah, I said they were the 7 seed.
Okay, yeah.
In their own conference. So yeah, they're not like a team that ran their conference all year. Yeah, they made a run.
Might be a little celebrated out. Yeah, but congrats to them. All right, we've got the 8-9 matchup here. This is going to be Iowa here favored 2.5 against Clemson. I have 0 notes on this game, so take it away, Kurt.
Yeah, every Iowa game is the same. It all comes down to if Sturtz can get his shots off and make his shots. Clemson, I've always been pretty good defensively. It's just one of their hallmarks there. And again, Iowa completely rely on this guy. In terms of their big games this year, the games where Sturts was not the leading scorer or scored below 15 points. 19-point loss at Michigan State. They lost at Iowa State. He wasn't the leading scorer there. He was not the leading scorer versus Illinois at home, where they were beaten. Didn't get to 20 at Purdue, beaten comfortably there. Again, with Purdue, where they were beaten by 21, didn't get to 20 there. At Penn State, wasn't their highest scorer. Bad loss. At Nebraska, wasn't their highest scorer. That went to overtime, but it was more of a miracle they got there. Scored 17 in that game. They lost to Ohio State. So they are one of the teams in the country that are fully reliant on their best player playing particularly well. And it's against the Clemson team, who are solid in and out. They can run with you if you really want them to. They can slow games down and play efficient on offense if they want to. And defensively, they're going to be there. So I really like Clemson here. I think they can shut down Sturts, and I'm just not sure where Iowa gets the rest of its offense from.
I agree with Kurt on this one. This is one of the ones where I was thinking there might be, I guess, what you would call maybe an upset here. I like Clemson a lot in this game too. I mean, maybe it's not. I guess it's not an upset because it's an 8-9, but I agree with everything he said.
Yeah, it's like a backwards upset. As in they are the dogs, though, with the spread. Okay, that's interesting. I'm going to have to mark that. We'll go over to another closer one here. Kaz, St. Mary's versus Texas A&M. St. Mary's a 2.5 to 3.5 point favorite here, depending on where you're looking. Are you on St. Mary's here, or are we looking another potential upset?
I'm actually going to lean upset here. My problem with the Gales, and don't get me wrong, the Gales are a great team. They have traditionally they've shot about in the low 30% from three the last couple of years. They bumped that up to 38.6% this year. So they have a good 3-point percentage. They're one of the best free throw shooting teams in the country. And they got a good offensive rebounding rate. But here's the biggest thing. They do all that, and they play at the 297th slowest pace in the country. They are god-awful slow. And I think the problem with them going into this game is that they're going to play a Texas A&M team who it was literally built from the ground up this year. Buzz Williams was the coach of Texas A&M last year. He left for Maryland, so Bucky McMillan took over. He literally brought in JUCO guys, transfers from USC, Kansas, North Carolina State, Creighton, Northern Alabama, Southern Illinois, Samford. I mean, guys from all over the place. They're the 9th best scoring offense in Division I. They score 87 points per game. This team flies. They shoot they have 4 guys that shoot 39% or better from three. And they shoot 71% or better from the free throw line. They did finish 4th in the SEC this year. The league was pretty deep, I believe. And I just think this team, with their pace, is going to keep the St. Mary's team from getting I don't think St. Mary's can pull away, and I think Texas A&M is going to keep it close, and I think they're going to put them away. A little bit of a red flag. Texas A&M was 0-4 against nationally ranked opponents this season. Their interior defense is kind of their problem. They give up a lot of buckets at the rim, but I think that this team can shoot from the outside. And if they can attack the rim against the St. Mary's team and keep the pace at their level, they can win. I just thinking when it comes to the tournament, when you play too slow, you're too susceptible to let teams come back, and it costs you at the end because the team coming back gets all the momentum from the crowd. And it seems like everybody that's sitting there, and I know TB, you and me have been to a bunch of these games for tournament games, and you can just feel like the tide shift where everybody's like, oh, the comeback team, now I'm going to root for the comeback team, even though you didn't have a dog in the race. So yeah, I like Texas A&M here.
I like them too. St. Mary's have a habit of running into ultra athletic up and down teams in the tournament, which is like the only team they can't handle because they're so good at slowing teams down just in general, except these Texas A&M types, teams who are going to come up the court and shoot threes quickly before you set your base defense and stuff like that. And it just seems to be like year after year they get put into these situations. A&M this year, Alabama last year ran them off the court. A couple of years ago, they had Grand Canyon, which is a smaller school, but they were filled with athletes and players who were going to bring it up and down. And St. Mary's have a habit of being good because they slow those games down and they make tough shots. It's tough to make tough shots, obviously, over dudes who are bigger than you. It's also tough to go out of your way when you're chasing a game and play the game that the other team wants you to play. And that's kind of my worry with St. Mary's. They get behind 5, 6, 7 points, and all of a sudden they're taking threes they don't take. And all of a sudden they're taking a couple deeper mid ranges with cloud paints and stuff. It's a awkward matchup.
Just to touch on like what Hugh just said, I actually watched St. Mary's lose to Miami, that Miami team that went to the Final Four a few years ago. I watched that game happen, and that was the same thing. St. Mary's tried to keep the pace down. Miami was playing full court press in their face. Miami got the lead, and then St. Mary's started to play a style of basketball that wasn't theirs, and it didn't work out. So yeah, we're definitely on the same page here.
Nice. That one is already on my bet slip after hearing you guys talk about it. Sorry, I am on hotel Wi-Fi right now. Some of that broke up for me, so if I drop, someone's just gonna have to take over. Heads up on that. All right, so we've got nice, a Cinderella team from last year. McNeese and Vanderbilt here. Vanderbilt a heavy favorite at 11.5 points. Could we see McNeese make another run here, Kurt, or is that something we should not be expecting?
No, I really, really like Vandy here. Vandy are underseeded for one. This could be a 4. If you really stretched it, it could be a 3, but they're underseeded to me. But this to me is just a genuinely really horrible matchup for McNeese. They do a lot of funky things that could win you tournament games. The way they play defense is ultra aggressive, and they're athletic. But teams like that really struggle against teams that have multiple guards who don't turn the ball over. And Vandy have multiple guards who can move the ball, play with the ball, dribble the ball, pass it, whatever you like, and they don't really turn the ball over in crazy bunches. They have the size to match, and McNeese don't have, while they're athletic and while they're gifted athletes, they're not bigger than Vanderbilt anywhere. Even the guy who's probably going to guard Tanner, who's a great volume scorer if you need him to be for Vanderbilt, is really not that much bigger than him. So it's a struggle for me to see McNeese have any advantages anywhere. If they're not going to have advantages on their Havoc defense, it's not going to come from too many other places. They don't have a ton of size. They got one 6'10" guy who plays like 20 minutes a game. They don't shoot the 3 particularly well, which is a bit of a red flag I see for a lot of these smaller teams trying to cause upsets. So I just think it's an actively horrible matchup against a team that can score comfortably, can shoot from 3, has a variety of answers, whether it comes from inside or outside, against a team that can't shoot particularly well from 3. It takes a lot of awkward mid-range shots and just their general shot profile and stuff like that. So I think Vanderbilt run away with this and win this by like 20.
Nice. Kaz, another Cinderella story there, or no? You agree with Kurt?
No, I feel like for the second year in a row, McNeese got a bad draw for their opponent. I agree. I mean, I think Vanderbilt just wasn't a good draw for him, and that happens. Just the way it goes. If they had the right matchup, I think McNeese could do some damage, but I don't think this is the one this year. Unfortunately for them.
So much has to go right for a team like out of 12-5 to win a game. It's really difficult when you draw a team that you just straight up don't match up with, and you don't have anything that like separates you from anything. You don't shoot the three like really well, like some of those old Ohio teams or something. Like you just don't have the one thing that could like win you 40 minutes of basketball. There's just nothing there outside of, again, the defense. And if you don't match up, it's tough to see where you find an advantage for 40 minutes that you can lean on and kind of win a game like that.
I think they're better. If they would have got St. John's, I think that would have been a better draw for them, honestly, just the way that they match up. But they got matched up with Vanderbilt. It's the way it goes sometimes. Just the seeding, just don't get the right look.
They remind me a lot of that Long Beach State team that everyone really, really liked like 7-8 years ago, and everyone couldn't wait to bet them. And then they drew New Mexico, which was like the worst possible matchup they could draw, and everybody had heavy Long Beach State, and New Mexico beat them like wire to wire by like 15. It's just it's just bad matchup.
Okay. All right, I'm not gonna talk anybody into taking the 12 there over the 5. Okay, Kaz, I'll give this one to you. This is going to be a closer game. UNC against VCU here. UNC threw it around 2.5 points, about -150 on the money line. What are your thoughts on this UNC team? And yeah, this first game here against VCU.
This is probably my like favorite game, my most favorite game that I got when we divvied out who got which one. UNC's entire tournament outlook is shaped by the loss of Caleb Wilson. Their big man was first team all ACC freshman, having a historic season. He was averaging almost 20 points a game and 10 rebounds. He was shooting 72% at the rim, 61% on all twos. He was the primary reason UNC was one of the only 2 teams to beat Duke this season. And then he broke his thumb and is done for the year after surgery. The on-off numbers between him on the floor and off the floor is huge. They were UNC was as a team was plus 16.5 net rating with Wilson on the floor. They lose 9 points with him off the floor. They're down to plus 7.5. They struggled in conference play without him, especially scoring. I think they were down 9 points a game, which is exactly what the rating difference pretty much was. Their defense also fell too. They were a top 20-ish defense. I think they fell down to like 40th with his loss, and who knows? It could even go. Time will tell. It could even go worse than that. In the final 8, I think 7 or 8 games that Wilson missed, UNC went 5-3 in the stretch. It's a horrible time to lose your big guy. Now, they do have a 7-footer, all ACC second team, who's going to try to step in and anchor the interior. They have a veteran guard, Seth Trimble, who I feel like is 40 years old. I feel like he's been playing in the NCAA tournament every year for the last 10 years. So they still have some talent there. But without Wilson, I mean, this tightens the game up a lot. UNC is not good at forcing turnovers, and they can be inconsistent at the free throw line. They got matched up against this VCU team. This is Phil Martelli Jr. He brought Richmond to the NCAA tournament in his first year, and now he's brought the VCU to a second straight championship in the A10. It's they went 27-7. They shared the regular season title with a good team of St. Louis. I'm sure people can't wait to hear us talk about St. Louis. I don't know who got them. That'll be later this week. But they have Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, the kid that used to play for the Indiana State Sycamores, plays on that team. They swept Dayton. Dayton was a solid team this year in the A10. They're led by Terrence Hill Jr., averages 14 points a game, shoots 45% from the field, 36% from three. They have another guard, Jadarian Tracy. So that guard two tandem against UNC should hold up pretty well. They have the A10 Rookie of the Year, Nick Lewis. He had 17 points and 11 rebounds in that conference title game. And then their big player is a 6'11" stretch forward, Lazar. I think it's Lazar Djokovic. He averaged 14 and 5 this season, shot 37% from three. So he can stretch it out. He's kind of like a joker for this VCU team. VCU is 10 points better per 100 possessions with him on the floor. So if UNC can get him in foul trouble, that could make a big difference. And then Brandon Jennings anchors the defense. He had 57 steals this season. He's in all defensive team honors. VCU ranks 7th in Division I in bench scoring per game, so their depth is big. I actually like this VCU's team as the upset special. I think UNC's going in the wrong direction. VCU's going in the right direction. If Wilson was playing for UNC, I think this is probably like 13 point spread. 2.5 is probably the correct spot. And I just like VCU. I think they feel the momentum. I think they're going to have a lot of people behind them. And they're going to be ready for the upset special. So I'm excited. I think VCU is a team that can actually maybe make a little bit of a run. They have the right depth. They have the right, I think with the stretch forward like that, they have kind of the right pieces. And if they get the right matchups, which they got in this first round, they got lucky that they got this North Carolina team that's beat up. That can make a big difference.
Kurt, are you in line with that?
Yeah, this was like a genuine coin flip to me that I don't know. I'm not going to bet this game. I will say North Carolina have put up a lot more fight than I expected since he went down. And they're fully capable of winning this game, not the next one, but this one. But VCU are a talented, good basketball team, so I'm not going to argue one way or the other here. I will disagree that the spread would be so high, though, if he were healthy. I think it'd be closer to 8, but regardless.
I'm curious what sounds like drastically they're on court with him on the court. Numbers are very different. How differently they'd be ranking with their Ken Palm stuff and how that compares to other 6 seeds currently in this tournament. Are they still averaging that between the two, or are they ranking them more with him off the court?
They're with him off the court. They're probably closer to somewhere between 8 and 10. This 6 is a mix of what they did with him and what they did without him. They probably just took the resume and rolled with it here. But they're playing more like a team between an 8 and a 10.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, we'll move on here, Kurt, to your last game out of the South. Doesn't seem like it's too exciting of one, but let's see what you have to say. Nebraska here, heavy favorites at 13.5. They're the 4 seed versus 13 seed Troy. The only thing I have noted on this is Nebraska has never won an NCAA tournament program history, and this is their best seeding since 1991. Do you feel, well, outside of this game, let's first hear how you feel in this game. Do you feel they could potentially make a run out of the South region?
No. This was the team I was looking to fade just in general coming into the tournament. They go through these big spurts where they kind of don't hit their threes, and since they take a decent amount of them, it kind of causes some up and down offensive performances. And I don't particularly love them on defense just as a whole. So they're a team I was kind of looking to go against somewhere along the way. But in terms of this game, a lot of people like Troy, and a lot of people wanted. I think Troy was one of those ones coming into the tournament. It's like if they get a good matchup, people are going to like Troy. And I think a lot of people saw Nebraska and felt the way I did, where you kind of want to go against Nebraska. But this is a super, super awkward matchup for Troy. They don't have a ton of size. And teams like Nebraska who have a stretch big, they got a guy on there who's 6'10", takes a decent amount of threes. If you leave him open, he's going to make his threes. Teams who have size that can move around the court and score from the perimeter and on the inside are really difficult to guard for some of these smaller schools who just don't have the size and athleticism. And that's one thing Troy's going to struggle with. They're not particularly big. They're smaller than Nebraska in a lot of spots, including those spots where you're going to get rebounds from, those spots where you're going to drag bigs out of the center of the paint. Like Nebraska are probably going to get to the rim as often as they want or get any three they want just by dragging bigs out of the paint. So it's a really, really tough defensive matchup for Troy, who just don't really shoot the three well. And if you're going to beat a team that's bigger than you or more athletic than you got to find a way to put points on the board in bunches. And I don't think Troy can really do it.
Yeah, that checks. All right, and then we'll go to the last game here, Kaz. It's a heavy favorite. Illinois is here, favored 23.5 over the University of Pennsylvania, who are the Ivy League winners this year. They, random note, they beat Yale here in their tournament 88-84. This would have been Yale's third year in a row back to the tournament, and I'm sure you're going to bring us up on the Penn side, but TJ Powers set a tournament record during that with 44 points and 14 rebounds in a game. He was previously with Duke and I believe Virginia before transferring to Penn. Thoughts on this game, and then I guess thoughts on Illinois in general here as a third seed.
Way to steal all of my good stuff for Penn, because that's about it. You said all the good qualities right there. Illinois is loaded with offensive talent. They got freshman phenom Keaton Wagler. I mean, I read a thing today that an Eastern Conference scout thinks that he's going to go in the lottery next year. They compare him to Tyrese Halliburton. He had 46 points in a game this season. The Illini are deep, talented roster. I mean, they're comfortable favorites here. This Penn team plays in an Ivy League that was kind of weak. I had a down year this year. They went 18-11. TJ Power is the name to know. He did drop 44 in that game against Yale. Another note is that Penn needed overtime in both their games versus Harvard and Yale in the Ivy League tournament to advance. So they won 2 OT games. I don't think there's a lot here. I think Illinois just blows them out of the water. Power might try to keep it close. He might be a guy that scores a ton of points. If there's some prop out there for one guy who's going to lead the weekend with most points, maybe you take a flyer on Power. But the real guy to watch is Keaton Wagler. If you get a chance to watch this game, might only be for a little bit because you might want to watch something a little tighter. But yeah, I don't think there's anything close here. This Illini team is good as far as depth, maybe making a little run in this bracket. But I'll let Kurt. I think he has one more game left, and then we'll go over all that stuff.
I don't have any games left, but this is a super, super awkward spot for Penn. As you said, coming off a couple of overtimes, they're going to travel, and this is a Thursday game against an Illinois team that love to run. If this game is anywhere close at halftime and it's like 32-27 or whatever, Illinois to score like 50 second half points is like a genuine possibility if you're going to be betting it or betting it live. Like really, really awkward spot for Penn, who should just be dead exhausted by the second half.
Love that. Yeah, that's it for all the matchups we're going to go through today. But on the South, interested to hear who you guys think are going to end up coming out of it, and then possibly a couple, if any. I know we had at least one there, upsets that you're looking at on the South side as well.
As for who I think comes out, I think the more I think about it, the more I like Houston. I do like this Florida team, and Illinois again can score. This is probably the most efficient offense in the spot there in this South side, but I don't know if they can defend well enough to kind of get by a Houston. I think whoever wins the Houston-Illinois game will get by Florida, though. So we'll see there. As for upsets, I think this one's the most chalky one I have. 1, 2, 3, 5, and then the 1, and then that's kind of where I am.
You're on VCU though, right? I know the spread isn't massive, but 6 and 11.
I'm coin flippy on that one. I haven't made a pick on that one. I'm not going to make a bet on it, so it's more of a whatever.
Kaz, it sounded like you were on VCU, yeah?
Yeah, I like VCU. There's going to be a team that falls somewhere. I think it's just bad, and as a Wake Forest fan, I hate to say it, but unfortunately for UNC, bad timing, which doesn't bother me a bit, but bad timing for UNC, probably a bad matchup versus VCU. I'm with Kurt here. I'd like Houston. I think Houston's got a little extra drive to win this. I mean, Kurt, what do you got to agree? I mean, especially if they get Florida in that Elite Eight game, I mean, you got to be licking your chops for payback after last year.
Yeah. Houston are always so difficult to beat because they're so good defensively and they're just so polished offensively. They do go through those stretches where they don't score as well as they probably would like to, which probably gets them knocked out at some stage. Like, I really like this Houston team, and I do think it's Final Four capable, but their shot profile is kind of nasty when you look at it. They take a lot of mid-range stuff, like just outside the painted area, inside the three-point line, like a lot of those, and they go through those funky spots where they can't score very well. So somebody elite probably gets them, whether it's Illinois, Florida, Duke. Like, I think someone gets them along the way, but they're ultra talented and really difficult to beat. So if you're gonna get them, it'll be a fight.
Quick scenario, if it were to happen. I mean, St. Mary's wins that game against Texas A&M. They get Houston in the second round. Now we're looking at two teams that play slow, play methodical on offense. I mean, I think you're looking at a low scoring game. And who knows, you have a bad shooting night. Maybe St. Mary's is a team that surprises some people and is a 7 and ends up in the Sweet 16. I don't think they'd go any further than that, but there's a possibility where same thing with Texas A&M. I think the 7 and the 10 could knock off Houston, or both teams could just get embarrassed and not score any points.
I just don't know how like St. Mary's scores points in a game like that. The over-under on that game is going to be like 123. if it were to happen. But like, I don't know how St. Mary's scores points in like that is my worry. Like Houston will be bigger everywhere in that game. They'll be. I don't even know how St. Mary's moves the ball from the guards. Texas A&M's different. Texas A&M can hit a couple threes, and all of a sudden that's a game. But yeah, I kind of like Houston. I think if Houston drops in this bracket, it's to Illinois, who just have a really good shooting day, and they have athletes that can kind of run with them a little bit. They push the pace some, and Houston missed a couple shots, but
I agree. That's if they falter, that's probably the team that's most likely to knock them off before they get to the Elite Eight is Illinois.
Yeah, give me some madness. Make that happen. Cool, guys. Thank you for that. And then on Wednesday, we'll go through the West and the Midwest side of the bracket. I wanted to talk a little here about the WBC game tonight, just because on Levr, I know the users have been kind of hammering the World Baseball Classic, as people should, because it's awesome, and you're seeing lineups that you just will never see except for when this event happens, pretty much. Let me see if I can share this. Oh, nice. It came up. So, yeah, tonight we've got Venezuela and Italy. Italy's made a pretty awesome run here with a lot of young guys compared to some of these lineups, as you'll see on the Venezuela side, which is just extremely loaded with like established MLB talent. So the winner of this game going to be playing USA after USA won last night. That 2-1, was it 2-1? Yeah, I believe it was 2-1 or 3-2, something like that. A one score game.
2-1.
2-1. Yeah, to see who's playing USA. So yeah, I kind of want to run through this because it is. Someone look up the line quickly on this. I believe it was like -220. It wasn't crazy, but it's definitely in Venezuela's favor. We'll start with the pitchers. Is Nola going tonight or is Lorenzen? Is this correct? Because I was seeing earlier in the day that Lorenzen was probably going to be pitching this game. And it surprised me because it seemed like they were kind of saving Nola in case they got to the championship game, which was interesting.
I'm reading it is Nola tonight.
All right, it does look like Aaron Nola. Yeah, so it is Nola. So that actually makes me, God, I hate wanting to be on Italy here. So Montero didn't have a great year last year. I mean, he's a rookie. He was pretty, or I'm sorry, it wasn't a rookie, 25-year-old. He was pretty average with the Tigers throughout the season, about a 4 ERA. But in the playoffs, he pitched awesome. He pitched in 3 postseason games for Detroit. He got a save in the ALDS in that game that won 11 innings. So he's familiar with like big pitching. And so I think you'll see a better pitcher than that 4 ERA, I guess is what I'm getting into. He does have a bit of an issue with the long ball, which kind of Italy has like surprisingly hit well this World Baseball Classic. Particularly not really the top of the lineup, but as you get lower into it. So starting with the Kansas City players, there's no chance I'm going to get these names right. Sorry, anyone, don't get offended. Pasquantino, Philly or Kansas City first baseman. I'm not sure if it's 3rd or 2nd year last year, but he did really well, power hitter. And then this young guy, no chance of me, Jack. I know that's his first name.
Jack Caglione.
Yeah, Caglione have been hitting really well, and he's a big prospect. And then surprisingly, I believe the guy at the bottom of their order, Nori, has the 2nd most home runs during this WBC on this team. He was a 2024 first-round pick with the Phillies. So they're like getting power here, and they're getting hits from parts of the lineup they weren't really expecting, and that's kind of where this run has come from. And their pitching has done surprisingly well as well. So Nola's definitely their ace. I like Aaron Nola. He's been around a while. I think there's not much of a pitching edge on either of these sides, but I mean, you look at this Venezuela lineup, and it's really, really tough not to get on these bats. I know where I'm going to go with this game, but I'm curious if you guys had any commentary just in general with the WBC, and then particularly this game. And I'll kind of say how I'm playing it, and it's just to see how you guys are playing it. If you are playing it.
Yeah, the WBC's been awesome this year. Italy's kind of come out of nowhere. They're pounding the ball. This Venezuela team had probably the biggest. Probably the biggest. I know Italy beat both Mexico and the United States, but I think Venezuela beating Japan last round was the biggest upset. I mean, for like 2 days later, you keep reading that. Like, I think the USA Today had like the updates of like who was playing which game, and it was like winner of this game faces Italy in Japan. It's like, well, Japan lost, so I don't know how you screwed that up. And they weren't the only ones that did that screwed that up. I mean, I feel like it was a lot of places just like gave it to Japan. It's like, well, you clearly didn't watch the game. Geez, every time you want to count out Italy, they show up, and I think that's the chip they're walking with. Like, so they don't expect anybody to believe in them. They're just going to believe in themselves. So maybe their luck runs out tonight. But Nola's a great pitcher. I mean, I think this is going to be close through the first 5 innings. I don't think anybody's going to really pull away. It might become a bullpen game, and maybe you can shed some light on who the bullpen pitchers are. Maybe that's where the difference is.
So, I mean, that's where this game's gonna, in my opinion, that's where it's gonna favor Italy the most, because Venezuela's bullpen is extremely spent after that game with Japan, and Italy's pitching has been doing really well during this tournament. I feel like that's where the edge is. If they can get to Montero early, they need him to go at least 4 innings. If they can get to him early, then I think it's going to be a problem, and it could end up being a pretty high-scoring game. But so the lines currently, they've moved. Does anyone have this? Oh, sorry, I'm in Texas, and I'm extremely limited as to what I can see right now in my sports.
Yeah, Venezuela is minus 188. If that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, and then Italy's plus. Okay, I got it. Plus 145.
Plus 155.
Yeah, so maybe I think this is how I'm going to play it. Maybe not playing Italy straight here as much as I want to, but with how anemic, and it's crazy to look at USA's offense and just looking at their scores, like they haven't hit. They just haven't. Like you look at that lineup and they should be, but they haven't. So if I'm thinking Italy's going to win this game, I'd almost rather take Italy to win everything at plus 1,300. And yeah, they would have to again beat USA after, but they've already done it once. And I don't know. Every USA game I've watched, it just seems like they haven't done anything on offense. And maybe that's just because I'm expecting too much out of it. But you see, like the DR team, they were rolling. I mean, obviously last night they didn't. This Venezuela team, they've been rolling. Like teams haven't been having issues hitting like with these monster lineups, but it just seems like the USA does every game. So I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
If you want to play it that way, I can't talk. Definitely not going to talk you off it or anything like that. I'm just not. If you like Italy, I think you're getting good plus money. I would just run with the game itself. I get the 13-1 and wanting to run with it. I don't love their pitching. And again, I haven't been super invested in the tournament, but just name-wise, number-wise, from my stuff last year, this is not a set of pitchers I love. Lorenzen's okay and can have good runs. Nola's not a pitcher I particularly love either. I think he's on the verge of kind of breaking down fully. He was a 4.5 type guy last year. Regular ERA was like in the 6 range. Like is funky. I think if you like them here, you run with them here and roll with it that way. And then if you like them against the USA, you're going to get a big number anyway. You can kind of
probably are going to get a big number anyway. That's true.
You can probably split your winnings and go about it that way or whatever.
To your point, Lorenzen pitching next game, if they were to get there, is not promising at all.
No, it is right. Yeah, right. And they could do a variety of different things. Again, they could run Noel out here for a bit, Lorenzen out, and then kind of just figure it out next time also. I don't know what the spread was like 5.5 the first time USA played Italy, if I remember right. I don't know what that equates to money line wise, but my assumption is that line is heavy enough that you could just play money line here and then you'll have more info going into the next game. They may be running bullpen, they may be running Lorenzen, you know.
Yeah, I think I just don't know. I mean, I guess I'm leaning over, but it's so high. It's at 10. But I could also see, like, if they get to Nola, I could also see Venezuela putting up almost all that on their own. Like, that's such a stacked lineup. I guess I don't know. It'll be a game time decision. But yeah, plus money on Italy, I definitely don't hate. But we'll probably just take the longer shot. All right, cool. Anything else you guys wanted to get in here before I wrap it up?
No.
Nope. All right. Kaz, thanks for your time, man. Kurt, nice talking. I feel like we haven't in a while, so thanks, man, for coming on. I appreciate it. If you don't follow Kurt, make sure you follow him at Volume Bets on X. What's the Instagram handle?
It's volume.bets on Insta.
Okay, and then volume.bets on Insta. He posts. I'm pretty sure you post. Do you still post your picks or just your recaps on Instagram?
Yeah, the picks and the recaps and all that stuff. Though Insta's gotten really good at like slowing down gambling stuff on there. So if you are interested in seeing it, Twitter is a good place. Or if you do go on Instagram, it would have to be probably notifications and stuff.
Yeah, follow him on socials. You'll find his Discord in there as well. I'm sure it's an awesome spot. I'm in there. People just talking sports all the time. And then on the Levr Bet side, we launched pretty recently. We are still kind of building out our sport portfolio on there. Currently, we have baseball, basketball. We will be adding soccer here shortly, as I know many of you are excited to get into. And then hockey playoffs will probably be the fast fall on that. Currently, just money lines. But the cool thing is you can take leverage on the money lines. And so what that is it's a riskier play. I compare it to like taking a parlay, a riskier play, but it pays out more. If you were to take, say, a pick 'em at just plus 100 to keep this simple, and you were to take 2x leverage on that, you'd be profiting 200 rather than that 100 on a $100 bet. 3x, 300, 4x, 400, 5x, 500. So the payouts are definitely more, but there's risk associated with that. The risk is if you ever your team hits certain odds threshold the wrong way, if they start a game, they start losing by a lot pretty quickly, there's a chance you'll get liquidated and just you're completely nuked out of your position. Then you lost the bet. Doesn't matter if they come back. So that's the risk on it. Different type of betting. Nobody else doing it. So definitely check that out. And then as far as the Levr Live stuff, we'll be looking to do these Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern. We'll get an assortment of guests on here. Kaz, myself, will be hosting. Might get our founder Blue on here every once in a while, but really just talking through currently what's happening in sports, slates on that day, what games we have coming on. But immediately here, it will just be mainly March Madness until we wrap that up. Definitely follow our socials at Levr_bet. We will be announcing our March Madness tournament tomorrow. There's going to be a solid prize pool with that, so definitely check that out. Thank you, everybody, for your time that was on here live, and then thanks everybody listening to the recording. And cheers, gentlemen. I'll talk to both of you later.
See you guys.
See you guys.